Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, voters in Ekiti State turn out in large numbers to elect the next governor of the state as the major candidates in the election, and observers describe exercise as peaceful. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP, makes overtures to former President Olusegun Obasanjo as members of the party's National Working Committee hold talks with the former PDP leader in Abeokuta, Ogun State. President Muhammadu Buhari promises inclusive growth through adequate infrastructure financing as he gets set to visit the Netherlands tomorrow. And Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki makes historic visits to Ethiopia days after both countries declare their state of war over.
Business news tonight. Delegates at the Nigerian Export-Import Bank Roundtable call for speedy enactment of factoring laws to improve trade relations between African countries.
And on sports news tonight, Germany's Angelique Kerber defeats seven-time champion Serena Williams to win her first Wimbledon title after beating the American 6-3, 6-3 in the final.
We begin tonight from Ekiti State, where voting for the governorship seat of the state has ended and collation of results still ongoing. More than 600,000 eligible voters trooped out in their large numbers to exercise their franchise, which will usher in the next governor of the state. 30 candidates are jostling for the seat, and election observers say that the election will go down as one of the most keenly contested elections in the history of the state.
As the day breaks, the pressure on INEC becomes obvious. They have made numerous promises to Nigerians about the Ekiti governorship elections. The ad hoc officials prepare to go deliver on the premises of the umpire. As they set out, hoping to be the 8 a.m. poll opening mark, anxious voters waiting in the wings form clusters to look for their names on the register. At several centers across the state, the exercise began right on time. Here comes the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Dr. Kade Fayemi, alongside his wife at Ekiti, where they will cast their ballots at about 10:16 a.m. Although the card reader could not read Mrs. Fayemi's card for about 10 minutes, it was later rectified and both of them cast their ballot. Dr. Fayemi says he is satisfied with the conduct of the election so far, in spite of a few issues.
The process was relatively smooth, except for a little hitch that they had with my wife's voter's card. But I could say that as far as Ogilolo units in Ekiti is concerned, it was a smooth process. I've had reports of problems with card readers, but it's too early to make any definitive judgment of all these reports.
The PDP candidate and the deputy governor had troubles getting through accreditation as his PVC was not recognized by the card reader, a situation resolved through the intervention of the INEC National Commissioner.
The intervention of one of the INEC National Commissioners has resulted in me being given the grace to be accredited and cast my vote. And I think I don't understand the technical issues involved, but they are able to find a way out of it. But I've been told that they may have to withdraw this PVC card from me and then issue me a new one. But that the registration is authentic from their records.
The Ekiti State Governor, Mr. Ayodele Fauci, left it till late to cast his vote. He emerges still carrying a neck brace. He doesn't seem to have much troubles, though, like others, before getting his ballot in the box. Politicians and voters also air their views about the election.
Right on this field, both APC and PDP are distributing money, and I have evidence to that effect. APC is distributing 5,000 per voter. PDP is distributing 4,000 per voter, apart from the 3,000 which they posted into the accounts of public servants.
This election will surely bring out the genuine opinion of Ekiti people. The votes, I mean, that is the genuine feelings of the wishes of the people is being fulfilled. That is what this election is going to be about. What, money or no money? Well, I'm not excited about that. I have not been involved in that.
That's the problem. But at the end of the day, within 30 minutes, the problem is okay.
After all said and done, polls close at 2 p.m. in most parts of the state, and comes the sorting of the ballot and then the counting. Afterwards, the announcement of results at different centers. Voters and agents have their hands on the result, and the different parties are already putting the figures together. But it is now left to INEC to announce who wins the exercise and who then becomes the next governor of Ekiti State. Shewa Kimaloye, reporting for Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the posting of about 30,000 police officers to Ekiti State for the election may have been justified, as many election observers say that the smooth conduct of the polls is hinged on the tight security. But that did not stop them from calling attention to what they call vote buying by agents of some political parties. Well, in the meantime, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, raised the alarm over what it describes as illegal release of the results of today's governorship elections in Ekiti State on social media. In a statement, INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner in the state, Professor Abdulgani Raji, asked the public to disregard such information being circulated as the election is still ongoing. He said that the announcement of the election results would be made by INEC at the appropriate time. While the Independent National Electoral Commission is worried about false election results being circulated, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has cautioned the electoral umpire not to accept or renounce any results that does not reflect the true votes cast at the polling centres. The PDP alleges plots to smuggle altered results at a collation level, which are at variance with already known results from the polling units. In a statement, the party warns, quote, PDP in very strong terms, therefore cautions INEC to be guided and ensure that it is not pushed by the APC or any interest, for that matter, to subvert the will of the people, as that would be a recipe for crisis, end of quote. The party adds that the people of Ekiti State already know the results that have been declared at the polling centres, and where the tide is flowing at very high levels of the electioneering process. Well, let's get more perspective on the Ekiti governorship elections, and I'm now being joined by a political scientist from the University of Lagos, Dr. Dele. Ashiru, I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10 at this time. How would you assess the elections so far today?
Well, from the reports that we have received, the elections have been very peaceful, but one is worried about the allegations and counter-allegations of vote buying, because when you begin to buy votes, it calls to question the democratization process in the country. So far so good. The election, as reported, was peaceful, but it is not yet Uhuru.
What do you see in these elections that we can learn from, for instance, going into the general elections in 2019?
Well, the first is that INEC appears to be improving by the day. I mean, if you look at the processes leading to the election, the clocks that used to affect elections in the past seem to have been overcome in terms of, distribution of electoral materials, particularly sensitive materials. But all the same, much still needs to be desired in terms of mobilization of voters to come out for the election. In this particular election, more than 900,000 people were registered in Ekiti to vote. And from the reports that are flying around, and from what we have seen, even in the recent broadcasts that we have seen, the people that have turned out to vote doesn't approximate that very high number. So a lot needs to be done in terms of mobilizing people to come out to vote.
In that case, then, what do you consider should be the greatest concerns for Nigerians ahead of 2019?
Well, the greatest concern actually should be, one, how to make votes count, because what we have at the moment and in the recent history of Nigeria is that people vote without choosing. So in preparation to 2019, we must ensure that when people vote, they choose. And once they choose, they must ensure that government becomes accountable to the people, because democracy is standing only on two pillars: participation and accountability. Now we are urging the people to participate. They are participating. They are exercising their civic responsibility. But what about accountability on the part of, those that have been elected? So one major thing that must be emphasized in preparation for 2019 is how to make those we have elected, quote and unquote, accountable to the people who have given them the mandate.
Now we're seeing the process in Ekiti, and it seems to suggest from reports that there has been some level of vote buying. How can we tackle that kind of problem?
Well, the only way, in my view, that we can tackle that problem is to review the entire democratic architecture in Nigeria. The point to actually note is that election in Nigeria is usually approached as if it's a war situation. Election ought to be like a game where somebody wins and the other one loses. But in Nigeria, because of the premium that we place on political power, and because of what political power can do and undo to people, once we are going into election, everybody go in with the calculus of winning. Nobody wants to lose. And that's why you find violence, you find vote buying, and also Nigerians and the electorates must be educated that once you sell your vote, you then have no moral rectitude, moral sanctity to say that there's either corruption in government or that the government is underperforming or not performing at all. So a lot needs to be done in terms of reviewing, the political architecture, and also educating the populace as to the reason why they must exercise, their democratic franchise in such a way that the elected can be accountable to the electorate.
One of the observations by the observers in Ekiti is that there have been some level of hitches with the what you call it now, the card reader. Did you anticipate that, despite the fact that INEC has assured Nigerians that there has been an upgrade on the card readers, and then we're still having this challenge?
Well, the problem with the card reader is a recurrent one. I mean, since its introduction, it has always had one challenge or the other. But that is not to say that the idea about the card reader should be thrown away with the bathwater. In fact, the credibility that we have in the voting process today cannot have come about without the card reader. So all one can say is to continue to urge INEC to perfect, these processes and be double sure that the card readers will do well in subsequent elections. But kudos must be given to those who introduced that idea of the card reader into the entire electoral process in Nigeria.
I must thank you so much indeed for talking to us, Dr. Dele Ashiru, the University of Political Science, of course, scientist from the University of Lagos. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
In part two, after the break, PDP moves to mend fences with former President Olusegun Obasanjo as the calculations ahead of the 2019 general elections heat up. Please stay with us.